Welcome to Krueger's Review. Today we're going to take a look at the differences between Ancestry.com and 23andMe. I sent my samples into both of those companies and I got a bit of a difference between them, and one of them was exactly what I expected it to be. The other one wasn't. So let's take a real quick look at this. First of all, my father's side. My father was a German immigrant who came to the United States a year before I was born. He was from East Germany, from a small town outside of Chemnitz, Germany. And Chemnitz isn't that big itself. It's near the Czechoslovakian border. I have my father's surnames, which go back about 200 years or more, which include Krueger, Harzer, Somm, Nolau, Heidenfelder, Siegel, Teichmann, Grunzig, Heinzmann, Wieland, Weertel, Frauch, Fuchs, and Unger. So you can see you can't get much more German than that. I will say, though, Dad being being raised and born and his family near the Czechoslovakian border, I did expect some Czech blood in Dad's line, and we'll see how that worked out. Now, my mother's line, my mother's from York, Pennsylvania, and her ancestors, most of them, immigrated in the 1700s from Germany and Switzerland. In fact, on her mother's side, most of them came over as Anabaptists from escaping religious persecution, and came to the southeastern Pennsylvania area, Lancaster, York area in Pennsylvania. But my mother's surnames include Haller, Schlauch or Slough, Leeper, Myers, Dessenberger, Murphy, Landis, Hauser, Strickler, Schwarzbach, which means Black Creek, Koch, which means cook, and Weber, which means weaver. So you can see the German influence there too. But we've got a Murphy, so I would expect maybe a little bit of Irish somewhere. Landis is Swiss, so I'm expecting from my mother's family, I'm expecting a lot of German, some Swiss, and a little bit of Irish or British. So we'll see how that works out. So to recap that, my father, Karl, from Chemnitz, Saxony, Germany, is about 80% German, 20% Czech or Slavic. My mother, from York, Pennsylvania, I estimate at 70% German, 15% Swiss or Southern Europe. Now, Switzerland is awfully near Italy. 10% Slavic, and 5% Irish, or the British Isles. With that mix of my parents, what do I think I am? I think I am 75% German, 15% Slavic, Czech, Eastern Europe, about 7.5% Swiss or Southern Europe, and about 2.5% Irish, British Isles. Starting with Ancestry.com, let's see what they did. They have me as British, 34%. Find that hard to believe. Scandinavian, 24%. Europe East, which would be the Slavic line, 17%. Europe South, which could be Switzerland or Italy, at 11%. Ireland, Scotland, Wales at 6%. And then these low confidence readings, Caucasus, which is somewhere over around Afghanistan, I believe, 4%. Europe West, 2%, which you could add on to German if they had given me any German. They don't give me any German. And then Iberian Peninsula, about 2%, which is Hispanic. That's Portuguese, Spanish. They also show the migrations, which I spoke about earlier. My mother's ancestors coming to the United States to escape religious persecution in the 1700s, and you can see it there. Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Indiana settlers. It goes into that a little more detail, but it did pick up on that. And as you can see on the map, it shows eastern Pennsylvania. It shows where they did migrate to. All right, let's look at 23andMe. Now, this is totally different. You just keep in mind what we just were looking at. French and German, or specifically Germany, now this is 23andMe. Germany, 63.2%. Eastern European, or Czech, 10%. British and Irish, 3.8%. Italian, 2.6%. Iberian again, that's that Portugal, Spanish, 1.3%. Broadly Northwestern European, 9%. Now I take that as also German because my mother's family came from Strasbourg, Germany, the Sloughs or the Schlauchs. And that area through the years, one decade it was French, under French rule, then the Germans got it, then it was French, then it was German. So because of that kind of thing, sometimes it's hard to decide people from there, what exactly are they going to be called, Germans or French? And I believe that's probably my broadly Northwestern European. So if you add that onto my Germany, it would make it about 72, 73% German. And then broadly European, 7.4. So as you can see, that's quite a bit of difference from Ancestry.com. Another thing I really like from 23andMe is this. It shows your ancestry timeline. In other words, when people who had the full blood of a certain specific ethnicity lived, when they lived. And if you look at mine here, you can see between 1920 and 1860, it's all French and German. Now keep in mind, my father was born in 1926. So that would be, obviously he would be in that. And then Eastern European, between 1860 and 1800. British and Irish before that, which makes sense because my Murphy, my great, 4 times great-grandmother was a Murphy. She would fit into that bar there. And then before that is Italian. Who knows who that was? And then Iberian, it goes back, and I don't know who that would be either. But that's sort of interesting that you can get an idea of the timeline of when your ancestors lived of that specific ethnicity. And then 23andMe does the Neanderthal ancestry. I have 298 Neanderthal variants, and they say that's more than 82% of their customers at 23andMe. So I don't know, maybe I'm going to start growing hair on my back and my brow's going to go down or something. I don't know. Poor Neanderthals, they got wiped out. Okay, so here, let's look at both of them. Let's look at 23andMe on the left and Ancestry.com on the right. As you can see, Ancestry.com doesn't have me German at all. Now that is pretty crazy, seeing as my father came from Germany. But 23andMe is almost right on the money. I mean, really right on the money. So if you decide to go ahead and send in a sample to get your own DNA profile, it's a good idea to try 2 places like I did. Because as you can see here, Ancestry.com, I don't know where they were, how they were doing their sampling, knowing how much German I am, and they don't even have any German on here. Now, to be fair to them, I would expect that this Scandinavia possibly is Northern German, because when they look at Scandinavia, sometimes they, the people of Northern Germany are related to the Scandinavians. I mean, that's where they migrated to. So I would imagine that the Scandinavian amount on there is actually Northern German. And my father always told me that, one part of his family, the Kruegers, came from northern part of Germany. So that would make sense. But it's funny how when I get my result from 23andMe, it's right on the money. I mean, it's just right on. And I was very pleased with that. They do updates from time to time. They revamp their databases, and they sort of, I guess they add more sampling. So it will get a little more fine-tuned as time goes on. But this was just my initial findings, and I was very pleased with 23andMe. 23andMe also has all those health, if you pay a little extra, you can get all your health reports, what you might be susceptible to as you get older, or, there was one that's really funny to where it made, when you eat cilantro, some people say it tastes like soap, and other people, the spice cilantro. Some people say, they swear it tastes like soap, and other people, they don't. To me, it does not taste like soap. It tastes like a spice, like cilantro. But, and that's one of the questions, but they go through a lot of things, how susceptible you are to certain types of diseases. Even if you eat a bar of chocolate or walk out in the sunshine, you sneeze or you don't sneeze, things like that. It's pretty interesting. And they have quite a bit on there. It's something to look at. I really wasn't interested in it. I'm being as old as I am. I just didn't want to mess with it. But I wanted to bring this to you today. I hope you enjoyed that, to see the differences. And for me, it was pretty special because I knew my background. I know my ancestry way back. And unless someone was adopted or someone was taken in by my family who wasn't a birth member, I know who I am. So it was a shock when I got Ancestry.com and saw all this stuff. What in the world? And then 23andMe, of course, it was what I expected. So in fact, I always wondered that maybe a sample got mixed up, but then when it shows the early settlers from Switzerland to the United States, well, I knew that was my family. So I knew that was me. It's just that it was off. So anyway, that's what we got. So thank you for joining with me today. Hope you enjoyed that comparison of those two companies. And stay tuned. We'll have something fun coming up in the near future. Hopefully I won't have another hernia surgery to put that off. Murphy is still alive and well. He's hanging in there. We may have a Murphy report soon. So until then, we'll see you around.